I don't really hate people, but anyways. I just love dogs. I mean, they're just the superior being, I think. Dogs, they're wonderful. Hey guys, I'm back, and I'm in another one of those t-shirts I told you about, the angrylittle.girls.com. This wonderful woman makes these just adorable little t-shirts and like purses and wallets and bags, and I've been following this lady for years now, and I just absolutely love her little comic strips. And this is another one. I'll show you in the video. I'll have I don't know which side it's going to be on, but I'm going to insert a little video that really gives you the full effect of the shirt, and which I absolutely love. I am not getting paid to talk about this woman and her shirts. Definitely check her out if you like this kind of style. It's kind of like it says, angry little girl style. Like my shirt says, I hate people. I don't really, but I don't really hate people. But anyway, I'm Dina Haynes, and I am back reading you my novel that I wrote called Neesa. It's from the original reality book series. There are 2 books out right now. They're on Amazon. I am working on the 3rd, and they're also in Kindle Unlimited. So check them out, and be sure that if you have not watched chapters 1 through 14, that you go back, because we're going into chapter 15, and I'm about to drop some spoilers. Chapter 14 was kind of sweet to see Ben and Neesa on their first date, and kind of romantic, I thought, how they snuggled up in that little booth, and they had themselves a real heart-to-heart, like a real exchange of history, which I liked. In that exchange, we saw a more intimate, more real side of each of them, and really where they're coming from. And hopefully Ben is finally on his way to some kind of redemption after the odd behavior in the beginning of their knowing each other. This date, to me, brought out his more human side. And so hopefully you're getting excited to read chapter 15, because the date's not over. And I'm excited to see what you're going to think about the next half of the date. So stay tuned, because right now we're going to start chapter 15. Chapter 15, Neesa's perspective. Truth? I asked. Ben swiveled his head toward me. Shadows streaked over his face in sync with the passing streetlights through the windshield of my car. As our date approached its end, I drove us back to the house where the night had begun. I said, I never thought I'd spend this much time with you and enjoy it. Did I mess up your plan? I sort of forced you into a PG-13 version of a date. Reuben shook his head. It's no use keeping it from you now. I'd hoped to drive you back to my place, but then you went and threw a left hook and hit me with your hyperbulimia stuff. And now I'm the one whose judgment's impaired. For all I know, that was your master plan. Please, he whimpered, don't take advantage of me. He scrunched his shirt together over his chest. I had laughed so much tonight that my abdominal muscles were sore. Annabelle and Claire wouldn't recognize me. I didn't recognize me. It's hypoglycemia, I said, voice shaking with laughter. He said, there's still a chance for us if you hang a right on Western. My place is that way. I said, not gonna happen. Suddenly the mood turned quiet. What would happen once we got to his car? I knew if he asked me out again, I would say yes, but was it wise? All I could think about was kissing him, and when I thought about kissing him, desire made me want more. A shiver ran through my body. I couldn't have sex with a guy on the first date, and yet it was all I could think about. The chemistry between us was insane, but I couldn't picture Ben going the distance in a real relationship. Maybe working out some of this chemistry isn't such a bad idea. Put it on the treadmill, girl. You've earned it. I hated when Claire stepped into my headspace. She was as pushy in my imagination as she was in real life. I noticed the car had gone too quiet for too long. My thoughts were ringing so loudly, and I expected Ben to chime in at any minute. His warm fingers touched my thigh, and a firework of sensations shot upward. Oh no. I couldn't resist if he seduced me. At this point, it wouldn't take much effort. My mouth went dry as all the heat from my body pooled between my legs. I remembered our intimate moment in the closet a week ago and squirmed. You know what time it is. It's time to like the video, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget the little bell icon. Just so you know, hitting the like button, that helps my algorithm so other people see this video and can enjoy the story just like you are doing. So thank you so much, and I appreciate it. The car lurched as I hit the brakes hard, almost running a red light. He didn't seem fazed. His hand stayed put, and in my peripheral vision, I could see his gaze locked on my face. I kept my eyes ahead, scared for him to see how desperate my need was. Times like these, I wished I had hair to hide behind. My shaved skull left me vulnerable. All of my emotions were on display. The light turned green, and on the next street I turned right, taking us into the Silver Lake Hills. My heart thundered in my chest like the drums of my tribe. Panic. An abject need. The closer we got to our destination, the more I knew I wasn't going to be able to say no to him. My only hope was his restraint, that he got out of my car, gave me a peck on the cheek, and walked away. He pointed out his vehicle, and I pulled up next to it. I harnessed my breath, pretending to be unaffected by the fact that my breasts ached for his touch. His hand moved farther up my thigh, sending me on high alert. Please don't make me look at you, 'cause then I'll lose it, I thought. My chest pumped harder while I gripped the seat underneath me and squeezed. I knew it was useless to fight, and yet I had to try. Why was I holding back? It would have been easier to give in to the inevitable. I was already kicking myself for what was about to happen. The leather squeaked in protest when his fingers hit home. Air rushed out of me, only to shudder on the next intake. Before I could rein in my reactions, my hips inched forward, giving him full access. He said, "God, you're so wet." I was gasping for air now, control hanging on by a useless thread. He said, "Look at me. If you tell me to stop, I will." No, I thought. I turned toward him and his eyes landed on my mouth a second before he fell on me. His lips were insistent, his tongue commanding as he blew through the last vestiges of my control. Before I knew what I was doing, my hand had gripped his wrist, holding it still as I squirmed into his touch. I was so hungry for it that I wanted to do the work. There was only one thing on my mind, more. The car began to roll backward and I stomped on the brake, sobering up in an instant. Whoa! He smiled. "This is dangerous." "It's your call, baby. I could leave, or we could finish this." He licked his lips and kissed me. He wasn't playing fair. Not that it mattered. I was a starving person with the Ritz. My arousal was so complete, I almost believed I hadn't made the decision. Something else outside of me, outside of my control, tapped home into the console's GPS to map the quickest way there. The choice was made, and I tried not to think about it. A loud screech sounded as I accelerated down the street. No more words were exchanged, only the unanswered need pulsing between us in the car, like a fussy child that wouldn't be quieted until it got a cookie. I practically growled at the stop signs and witless drivers, keeping my focus on the road and my mind on types of cookies. Chocolate chips, sugar, peanut butter. The driveway to my house loomed up ahead. I was vaguely aware of Ben grabbing the passenger door handle as we both leaned left from the force of my car hanging a hard right onto my property. It didn't occur to me to be wary of bringing a stranger to my home, though after tonight, Ben wasn't exactly a stranger. The drive home had been a blur, and the sprint I made to the front door was embarrassing. Ben caught me by the waist, spun me around, and kissed me silly. "Yes, I'm still horny," I wanted to say, and he laughed. I said, "Oh God, did I say that out loud?" He smiled in response, and I turned around and slid the key into the front door. The alarm beeped as soon as we stepped inside. I quickly punched in the code. Enola's nails scratched on the Spanish tiles in the den as she scrambled to greet me. It never occurred to me how awkward having a pet would be. I imagined it was similar to having a child up past their bedtime, but not this time. Mama had an itch to scratch. Ben said matter-of-factly, "You have a dog." Enola hovered over his ankles, sniffing them. I asked, "Is that a problem?" He said, "No, animals are cool. I have a cat." Referencing our long list of differences, I said, "Of course you do." Enola instantly took a liking to Ben. She didn't bark, which annoyed me, but didn't surprise me. She was, after all, more lapdog than watchdog. I grabbed him by the wrist and pulled him down the hallway and into my bedroom, shooing Enola out before shutting us in. He said, "Don't you need to take her out or something?" I said, "She's got access to the yard and a puppy pad in the office. Enough about her." His back hit the door, and Enola barked from out in the hall. She wasn't used to company, but we were going to have problems if she kept this up. I said, "Hush, Nola. Mommy needs this." I captured Ben's lips and licked my way toward the back of his throat. He let out a muffled moan of surprise as I took the lead and made quick work of removing his belt and opening his fly, springing his penis free. In the back of my mind, I knew I was attacking him, but had lost the capacity to care. Once I decided to do this, I had an overwhelming drive to get it done quickly. He sparked into action, removing my clothes piece by piece. Once he stripped me down to my underwear, he lifted me and carried me to the bed. Wasting no time, he sat me down, straddling his lap, pulled my soaked panties aside, and penetrated me. My body stilled, the tight fit slowing our actions to a crawl. I stared into his eyes on the edge of panic, my mind flipping heads or tails between the pleasure and pain threshold. He didn't rush me, though. He seemed to take pleasure in watching me deal. I gasped, "You're so tight." He panted, "I think that's my line." I said, "Oh, yeah." My voice trembled. My thighs shook as I sat flush with his hips, the fly from his jeans cold against my ass. He did a swirly motion, and I clutched onto him as a desperate sound ripped from me. Impatient, he began to move in and out of me. I said, "Oh, God, wait." He was moving too fast, and yet the only way for me to loosen up was to continue. Lucky for me, he didn't listen. I held on as he drove every bit of his length into me, spreading me wider, making me wetter. The sensations grew too much to handle, and I hugged him tight, much as boxers do to stay their opponent. Oblivious to what my body was doing, I was surprised when he said, "That's it, baby. You want it? Take what you need." And I did. I used him to obliterate the hurt left by my ex and his infidelity, to feel pleasure at long last. My insides turned to liquid heat. Muscles and joints loosened as my body went all mechanical on me. Finally, he unlocked the door and set me free. I clamped a hand onto his thigh, threw my head back, and shouted my release. After some time, my body quieted. Wetness soaked his lap, and my body still gripped him tight. He laid me down on my back and gazed into my eyes with a reverence usually reserved for supermodels and A-list actresses, not bald tribe girls from Missouri. His fingers slipped under my panties and slid them off my legs. I had an impulse to cover myself, but exhaustion kept me still. My limbs like jelly, I watched as he unhooked my bra, releasing my breasts. Real ones, like mine, spilled to the side, not like the perky orbs a lot of Hollywood girls made their boyfriends pay for. All of my old insecurities stepped forward to be noticed. "Remember me?" they said. Oh, fuck off. I cringed and worried that Ben preferred the surging, sculpted type. He had to be an authority on them by now, considering the many women he claimed to have slept with. He spread my legs open, my wet flesh bared for his unobstructed viewing. How was it possible to feel insecure and turned on at the same time? I yearned to be kissed down there, but feared he'd had his fill. Cool air whispered over my smooth skin, and I squirmed. I was desperate to experience everything in his sexual repertoire. I had a lot of catching up to do. Embarrassed, I put a hand over my eyes. Was this the same guy I had accused of being a stalker mere days ago? The self-proclaimed bad boy? I had willingly put myself in harm's way. The captain had left the helm of my ship, and I couldn't fire him because that person was me. I heard a rustling noise and let my hand fall back in time to see Ben in all his naked glory. He was gorgeous, his skin tan, his muscles visible but not overly cut. Thick was the best way to describe his physique. A soft sprinkling of hair covered his chest, but that was not what grabbed my attention. His penis strained out and up, rigid and pink and glistening. For a second, I lost the capacity to breathe. Did you forget something? He looked down as if noticing for the first time and cursed. He bent over and his jeans rustled as he brought out a condom and sheathed himself. He said, I didn't come yet. He leaned over me and pressed his hot mouth over mine. I asked, you sure? But the words were muffled by his kiss. His body blanketed the side of mine as he took my leg closest to him and lifted it by the knee, penetrating me from behind. The sensations were immediate and intense from this angle, and my protest silenced for the rest of the night. That's the end of chapter 15. Pretty juicy, right? Tune in next time for chapter 16, because apparently the date's not over. And be sure to like and subscribe and hit the little bell icon, and I will see you then.